Let's talk about Solar Opposites, made by Justin Roiland of Rick and Morty fame, but this time without Dan Harmon and with another guy. And essentially, I picked up this show because I want to see some really weird animation. Because Rick and Morty season 1 and 2, say what you want about the next few seasons, 3 and 4, I don't really care much for them, but essentially season 1 and 2, we saw some really weird and interesting bits of animation, because I see animation as this really powerful medium. We can draw anything we want. We can create whatever our minds can imagine. And what do we see? We see the same tired old anime blobs. We see the same tired old, shonen pro tags powering up. Yes, I like it. It's good. Don't get me wrong. I do enjoy that stuff. But I always want to see something more. And definitely that 80s, that 90s anime before K-On! Pretty much happened. They had something really interesting going on for some of the shows. I'm not saying all the shows, but some of the shows had some really interesting aesthetics and they did some interesting stuff with the medium. But so far, in like the modern era, the animation medium has become kind of stagnant, I would say. It's been really samey and really safe. But then when Rick and Morty season 1 dropped, and I watched it way back in the day, it was just like a breath of fresh air. You see some really weird things, but they've kind of lost that with the new Rick and Morty. So I was really hoping Solar Opposites would deliver in some really weird stuff in terms of animation. And essentially, I got my wish, because Solar Opposites does hit that really weirdness in animation. There's like this thing they called gooblering, because it's about these aliens, these plant alien lives, and when they get worried, instead of sweating, they goobler, which is essentially these holes open up on the top of their head, and then what appears to be sweat pours out. It's purple, by the way. Purple sweat pours out of their head, and then turns into little dancing people that then dance away into the sunset. Like, we see some really weird stuff, and I'm not gonna lie, when I first saw one of the characters goobler, I was extremely distraught and I was really made uncomfortable by that scene, and I loved it. However, before we dive into the world, or rather the visual aspect of Solar Opposites, I want to talk about the plot, because some people are like, this is not like Rick and Morty at all, this is like a breath of fresh air, and I completely disagree, in the sense that, yes, these are not Rick and Morty. Rick and Morty is not in the show. These characters have their own character archetypes, and they don't fill those specific character roles at all. They filled the exact same kind of genre feeling that the show is trying to put forward, because these characters, they take the fantastical, they take the science fiction, and they make it just so mundane and boring. Not in the sense that the show is boring, but in the sense that you take these like fantastical abilities, right? And they just say like, oh, what if we just had a gun that made you smart? We have to make a smart gun. Or what if we have like the ability to create anything we want, but instead we make a TV show kids character come to life? Like, they use technology for like essentially the dumb things that we humans would probably use. But if we were writing like a grand space narrative or like a great high fantasy journey, they would not be doing that stuff at all. It is precisely this juxtaposition between taking itself kind of seriously and then not taking itself seriously at all that makes it work so well. It really reminds me of a very well executed Abridged series. Like, for example, in Dragon Ball Abridged, when Frieza and Goku are fighting and the planet is going to explode, they're going to die, and they're taking themselves super seriously in the original, but in this version, they're still kind of just joking about it. It just makes so much sense. It like, these characters are taking it not seriously, but also seriously at the same time. And it's this kind of double-sided coin thing, this contrast that really makes it work. Specifically in Solar Opposites, the main thing that's kind of taken itself really seriously but not seriously at all is this C plot, B plot type thing, where these characters, these people in the town, are being shrunk down by one of the characters, Yumulak, and he takes down these shrunken people and puts them inside the wall. The wall, of course, being this giant glass wall where people kind of fight it out, and they create their own little society, their own little medieval society that does trade and bartering, and they somehow, out of all that ridiculousness, like these shrunken down people using toothpicks, using gum, eating candy, they've managed to create like such a compelling character's arc in it, where this guy kind of rises up, and they make so many like high fantasy references in it. It's just so perfect, because it juxtapositions the really high concept sci-fi stuff perfectly, because you got this whole medieval C plot, and then you have this whole really high concept sci-fi stuff. It just matches so well. I very much enjoyed Solar Opposites' story as well. Oh, and we can't forget the anime references that the show makes. Like, their characters are walking around the high school, and you're gonna see a dude with, like, the Naruto headband walking around. Like, it's just so perfect. And then, in the final episode, one of the characters is wearing, like, a straight-out-of-anime t-shirt. Like, the anime references are there as well. There's something for everyone. I really enjoyed the storytelling, the visual aspects. It all really comes together in Solar Opposites. I kind of expected, when I first watched it, I really expected it to be kind of a Rick and Morty knockoff. Like, I actually expected that, in the sense that we have a scientist character and we have his dumb sidekick. Like, we've seen this. How are you gonna mix it up? And they managed to actually mix it up. So Justin Roiland confirmed not a hack. He's definitely up there with Karuka when Karuka made a sequel to Danganronpa 1. Like, I didn't think it was possible to make a sequel, a satisfying sequel to Danganronpa 1, but he managed to do it. And Justin Roiland definitely hit this one out of the park as well. Even someone like me who lives under a anime rock, I've grown up watching anime. I don't really watch much Western TV. Like, I have never seen a single episode of Friends. That's how good slash maybe bad, I don't know if that's a good or bad thing, but essentially I don't watch like almost any Western media, and this show is just chock full of Western media references, and I don't understand like even half of them. They just go right over my head. I am super boomer, or maybe it'd be super zoomer in this sense, and yet despite all that, I still really enjoyed it. This is like a mark of like a good comedy series that does the referential humor stuff, but it doesn't lean too hard into the referential humor stuff. Like, there's some like abridged series that are not that great. You know which ones I'm talking about. I don't want to name names, but essentially they do the referential humor stuff, and they do try to get the irony going, but they lean too hard into the referential humor. And if the guy, or rather if the audience, isn't as well read or as well versed with pop culture as the writer, then it just kind of falls flat. And yes, I know I just gave him props for like the referential humor, but keep in mind that they will be plugging Hulu a lot. Like, I mean a lot. Like in like the first episode, they'll talk about the commercial break. They're gonna break the fourth wall, and one of the characters, literally at the very end of the series, he's gonna look directly into the camera and he's gonna say, Hulu. There's definitely a lot of Hulu shameless plug. Anyways, that's really all I have to say about Solar Opposites. It's not anime, but I very much enjoyed it. I think you should go out and watch it if you have a Hulu subscription. If you don't have a Hulu subscription, well then you know what to do. Anyways, thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.